Reading the chapter 1.
Where to put my mic?
I don't know, I have to
That's good.
So, chapter 1 is the courage of an English soldier and the heart of a Bengali mother, and the subtitle is Cutting Their Pride. So that's the beginning, that's the first chapter. We were reading a few stories from yesterday. So here is Chicago. Title of this story is All Glories to the Brahmacharis. Tamohar Das. So I cried out stupidly, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, not knowing what else to say, and smiled so broadly it must have looked like my head would fall off. In his graceful kindness, Prabhupada looked up and responded. He had just left a meeting in which the sannyasis and temple presidents and grihastas had their differences over how matters were to go for the two ashramas. Prabhupada said, all glories to the brahmacharis, as he passed me, thus simultaneously reciprocating my salute, and also humbling the two ashramas who had been fighting, this is sannyasis and grihastas, by acknowledging the essential contributions of the brahmacharis to his movement. I was ecstatic, trembling inside. My godbrothers were mercifully and lovingly smiling to see the young brahmachari offering his respects to Art Prabhupada with such emotion. Shortly after I left, so at that time he was still a brahmachari, Tamohar Prabhupada. This is from the Prabhupada Connection website. So these stories and articles are taken from different sources. Sometimes from some books, sometimes from the Prabhupada Connection website.
It's a good website, and I don't know everything there. So many. I mean, this thing with the Grihastha and the sannyas, brahmachari, that was a big spread. And Prabhupada was there to just solve it, simply. Now he's not here, sometimes it's more difficult to say.
Yeah.
So this whole section is about decreasing the pride of disciples, which is also part of the care. 1973, Mumbai. You don't know how to cook. Shankadas. Srila Prabhupada asked me on a morning walk how much ghee I was using in the kitchen cooking for Krishna and the devotees. I said I was using 1 kilo a day. Srila Prabhupada said that it was too much. So I proceeded to cut it to 0.5 kilo a day. The next morning, on a morning walk, I said proudly to Srila Prabhupada that I had cut the ghee to half. Srila Prabhupada then replied, you don't know how to cook. That is still too much ghee to use.
Half kilo to ghee, Mama mia. It's too much also, no?
Then, 1973, Mumbai, you don't know how to make samosas.
Oh.
Shankadas again. Srila Prabhupada looked down at the plate of samosas that the Indian cook had made for his guests and looked at me and said, you don't know how to make samosas. You only know how to make footballs. Smiling, he looked at Harikesh and myself and said, you two always mess up everything, and walked out of the room smiling. So here is correction with a smile. San Francisco, taking the deity to a park. The day after the installation, some devotees took Lord Jagannath into Golden Gate Park and started a kirtan. Soon enthusiastic people gathered and encircled the Lord, all the while chanting and dancing. When the Swami heard from someone about this occurrence, he walked over to the place known as Hippie Hill, and when he saw Jagannath, he offered his obeisances. Then he sat beside the Lord and led the chanting. More and more people arrived. Mukunda and Shyamasundar ran back to the temple for the timpani drum and portable microphone. Later, Swamiji firmly but kindly told us that Lord Jagannath always stays in the temple. People come to the temple to visit the Lord, but Lord Jagannath does not go out to see the people. You should take the beads from the seat, from the cushion.
Take the what?
The beads. She should
The beads.
not put them on the sitting place.
Yeah. We don't put on this.
So she could put it on the shelf.
Yeah.
I put here. Thank you very much.
These things.
So Vedavyas Das, that's Bhakti Gauravani Maharaj. So he also, the title is Don't Concoct. Vedavyas Das. During one song, Srila Prabhupada suddenly stopped. He turned to Hamsaduta and asked, "You do not know how to play mridanga." With a movement of his hand, he indicated to his flustered disciple that he wanted the drum, and then he showed him how he wanted him to play it. He played the classic combination of the beats that he had taught everyone in the beginning: Tati, Riti, Ritita, Katita, Katita, Ge, Din, Dha, Din, Ta, Geta. Like that, he said, and handed the drum back to his disciple. This incident taught me a lesson. Hamsaduta had not played wrong, technically speaking. He was an expert musician, and played mridanga better than any of us. But when he invented his own beats, Prabhupada didn't like it. Prabhupada made it clear that he preferred the standard way, even though it was simple, to flamboyant mridanga fireworks. At the Prabhupada Connection website. No fault finding. So here, we'll start to comment a little. Here is an important point, that what pleases Krishna is not the material expertise, this kind of like skill, but actually to play in a way that is pleasing to Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada was always playing this simple rhythm on the mridanga, but following always the singing. So also there was another instance where one disciple sang Guru Puja, but this kind of a rocky style or pop style, and then Prabhupada stopped him. Yeah, you remember, he stopped him that he couldn't continue singing like this. He didn't like it.
One time in Mayapur, they organized a kind of kirtan contest, and Prabhupada, from a distance, he heard what's going on, kirtan contest, and they started to run for the Bengalis. I mean, it got out of hand. He said, "You stop it right now," and it never happened. It was like it became like a big show,
Yeah.
Beats, and especially the Bengalis, they can be really.
Yeah.
So it's not a show; it's just devotion.
So we learn from a pure devotee what pleases Krishna, and what pleases Krishna is not always something that is materially impressive, but is the devotion and doing it Krishna's way, not our way. No fault finding. Nanda Kumar Das. It's embarrassing to say this, but once Prabhupada told me that I was the king of fault finders.
I could.
When I tried to share with the other devotees what Prabhupada had taught me, due to my ego, it sounded like I was finding fault with them. And there was some of that there. So one of Prabhupada's instructions to me was to give up fault finding, to accept and apply all these instructions, all his instructions, and not worry about what anybody else was doing. Now this is an extremely, I teach this all the time, that instead of focusing what others are doing wrong, you can spend time and energy focusing on what you can do right. This is a better use of time. So here is clear, the same principle is there, that where he directly instructs the disciple to not worry about others, what others are doing, but to focus on following his instructions himself.
Now what about when the others are doing wrong things that affect the whole community? It's like, how can you be unconcerned?
That's not fault finding. This is where leaders and managers should intervene and react. When something is extreme, which is affecting everyone, their duty is to protect.
Yeah.
But fault finding means talking endlessly about someone's faults behind the back, not really working to resolve the issue, but actually just making a whole kata, constant gossip, and either in your head or with someone, speaking with someone. So definitely we have to react, but not just that it becomes our whole meditation.
I've seen that.
Care is our responsibility. Dayananda Das. Once, a few of us were in Prabhupada's garden when Nanda Kumar was his servant. After some time, Prabhupada wanted to go inside, and we walked with him behind the temple into his quarters. Downstairs from Prabhupada's quarters there was a room with some cupboards, and some of the Krishna book paintings were sticking out from one of the cupboards. Other paintings were on the floor, leaning against the wall. Prabhupada noticed that the Krishna book paintings were not nicely protected and said, "Why are these here? What are these doing here?" Nanda Kumar said, "I don't know, Prabhupada. It's not my responsibility." Listen now. Prabhupada shot back, "It is too your responsibility." That was a clear indication that Prabhupada expected his disciples to take responsibility for the things they saw in his movement. So this is, these are, I have to change the title. These are, life lessons, not only devotee care lessons, but life lessons of Srila Prabhupada. So when we see that something is wrong, we feel responsible to correct it, either to check why it is so, and speak with someone if possible, or do it ourselves. I always give an example that if we see that part of the courtyard or part of the temple room or corridors is not clean, instead of criticizing the managers, we can actually take a few minutes, it's a good gymnastics, and clean it. And not just engage our mind in fault finding, criticizing, and accusing others why something is not done. How much you should do, that has to be decided by each individual. Regarding my books, everyone should read. I am also reading. Everyone should be engaged 24 hours. That is the sum and substance. How much you should read and how much you should do other types of service, that has to be decided by each individual devotee. Eating and sleeping should be minimized. Not a single moment should be misused. letter from Mexico City. Powerful Acharya in the Vaishnava world, the Prabhupada Connection website. So here is an important point, that each and every one of us has different capacity, and what is 100% for an ant is not the same as 100% for a monkey.
Yeah.
Lord Ramachandra, he appreciated the service of spiders or ants the same as he appreciated service of Hanuman and other powerful monkeys. And because both were giving 100%. So according to one's ability, according to one's capacity, one can engage 100% in the service of the Lord. November 65 to July 1970, handling complaints. Umapati Swami. And of course, everybody was a brand new devotee and nobody really knew much of anything. So there was a lot of nonsense going on and fighting and things like that. So I became disturbed and went to see Prabhupada to complain about some of the things that devotees were doing. Prabhupada said, if you don't like what they are doing, then you set the example. A little later, I again went to see him to complain about devotees, and Srila Prabhupada said, what do you want from them? They are trying to serve Krishna. And the third time was in 1972, I think. I was living in San Francisco, and I wrote a Prabhupada letter just complaining about so many things. So Prabhupada wrote me back. I complain people do bad things and they're the example, and they're the example, and this and that. Prabhupada said, who said that they are an example? He said, anyway, what are you doing? All you are doing is making money and spending it on your own household life. And he ended the letter and said, the whole movement has been for, because I had said, I don't understand this movement. Prabhupada said, you have been with me for so many years and still you don't understand. When will you understand? He said, the whole movement has been for service. This is following Srila Prabhupada transcript. So these are also interviews with devotees. Okay. So Srila Prabhupada always encouraged devotees to try to just do whatever is possible, do their best, to serve and not look so much at faults. Of course, sometimes he would say that things has to be corrected, and the devotee should inform him or inform other leaders. But here, in three instances, he's redirecting Umapati Swami to actually focus on his own contribution and his own service. And this is a great lesson. Srila Prabhupada punishes a rebel with sannyas. Brahmananda Das. At this time, there was what Prabhupada considered to be the minimization of the spiritual master by the leaders, mostly from myself. I was the most infected with this. I would say jealousy. With this, I was the most infected with this jealousy of the spiritual master. At this visit to Los Angeles, things were going wrong from ISKCON Press, which I was in charge of. The books were printed, but Prabhupada's title was not properly put. It was just A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. His Divine Grace had been left out. Even one book, one of the Bhagavatam chapters, just had A.C. Bhaktivedanta. Even the Swami was removed. I presented Prabhupada a book from ISKCON Press from Boston that we printed, and he opened the book and the binding just snapped right off. And this was in the temple when the formal presentation was made. When he went in the temple and he took the Charanamrita, then he stopped and said, "It is salt." Then on the altar they had placed the Acharya photos. I think it was Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's photo that was placed upside down. To cure me of my disobedience and jealousy, Prabhupada ordered me to take sannyas and said that sannyas would be a cure because I had give up all my position. I had to give up all my position. I was in charge of the press and New York Temple. That had to all be given up. Sannyas is a purification. I had no choice in the matter. Prabhupada just came down the stairs and just stood over me, and as I was bowing down, and said, "Tridandi Goswami, Brahmananda Swami," and then walked out. Prabhupada confronted us, myself specifically, with a minimization in Los Angeles before taking sannyas. It was the most shocking experience of my life. Prabhupada's chastisement was so severe. Spiritually, I could feel Prabhupada withdrawing his mercy. And then Prabhupada gave us the sannyas. Following Srila Prabhupada transcript. So this is a very, very great lesson, that when one can make Vaishnava aparad, one can offend the spiritual master if one becomes very envious or jealous of the spiritual master. But Srila Prabhupada was guided by Krishna how to resolve this, and although they got a chastisement, but still he also somehow gave him sannyas. He upgraded his position. And later, I think he left sannyas. But now I don't know what he's doing, but he's back, and I think he's selling Prabhupada's books or something like that, or CDs. Yeah. So, and Prabhupada knew exactly how much each disciple is sincere. So it's very dangerous to actually offend the spiritual master. Here they were saved because Prabhupada didn't take it so seriously, and he just, it was very serious, but he had this amazing solution of giving him sannyas and having him to start travel and preach and take other responsibilities, but this local responsibility of the printing and temple president, he had to give up. Maybe you can say, in a sense, it was also a punishment, because he had a position, he had power. But Prabhupada knew exactly what is the best. Okay, July 1970 to March 1971, only devotees can stay. Yadubar Das. Yadubar Prabhu is a devotee who made the movie Your Ever Well Wisher. Have you seen it? Your Ever Well Wisher? It's a biography of Prabhupada? No, okay. It's a documentary. The second day I was there, Srila Prabhupada asked me, "So you are going to become a devotee?" I couldn't imagine myself wearing the robes and the shaved head, so I said no. Although inwardly I felt I was. So Srila Prabhupada's reply was, then you cannot stay. The Yadava Prabhu is like very quiet devotee.
He's preparing another film, you know?
Really?
Yeah,
That's amazing.
for 2016. A film for the general public, you
That's
know.
amazing.
Yeah.
Always working, always serving Prabhupada. Shattering the disciples' pride, August 1973 to March 1974. Bharadaraj Das. So after struggling for almost a year with the whole process of learning, I actually got to the point where I thought, okay, now I can do something. So I made a diorama of Nishingadev, Hiranyakashipu being ripped apart. I wanted to impress Srila Prabhupada with the pyrotechnics of it. So it was all very realistic. So this was the first exhibit of maybe 15 or so exhibits. Trying to hide my pride, so he's an artist. You understand? Can you explain to her what's happening in Spanish or in Russian? He's an artist.
Yeah.
He makes dioramas, that's the sculptures,
Yeah.
and he made Nishingadev and Hiranyakashipu.
Yeah.
And then there is pyrotechnics, there is some effects with fire. That's pyrotechnics. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was very proud that he made this. Trying to hide my pride, I toured Prabhupada around the exhibits. We came to the first one, he studied it for some time, and then he asked whose it was, and I said that it was my work. He said, it's not yet perfect, you must study some more. Then you can go to the West and teach, but you have to study some more. And that's all he said. He didn't elaborate on it in any way. He looked at other exhibits, there were several. At the end was the exhibit of Rukmini. Rukmini had made one too, because we both studied together. It was a diorama of Lord Chaitanya fainting before Jagannath, and Prabhupada stood at it and was visibly moved and happy to see it. He said, who has done it? Who has done this? I said, well, this is Rukmini's work. And Prabhupada said, the wife is better. Oh, that's his wife.
Yeah, that was his wife.
Which Rukmini is this?
Rukmini, the one who's married with Anuttamana.
That Rukmini. She was an artist.
Yeah, it looks like.
My goodness, she's also a Sankirtan devotee. It is amazing. I had a coaching session with her.
Yeah, yeah.
I had a session with her.
Oh, yeah. This is great.
I felt in a nutshell humiliated, chastened but grateful. I expected some encouragement, but it didn't come then. It came later, though, when we completed the work in Vrindavan for the installation. So he got encouragement later, but he got some reduction of pride. So the spiritual master can feel when we are proud or we are in not in proper consciousness, and then he speaks appropriately according to this. And sometimes disciples are really shocked how my guru can see so much. And especially with Srila Prabhupada, they have experiences where he was like Paramatma, he just knew what you think and what you're feeling and if you're proud and things like that.
Wow. Qué fuerte.
March 74, curing an angry, offensive person. March 74 to July 74. Yashomatinandana Das. On one occasion, Srila Prabhupada was criticizing the Mayavadi philosophy, especially the philosophy of Vivekananda and Ramakrishna. Yatamat tatapat, as many ways, so many conclusions. In this philosophy, it means that whomever you want to worship, you can worship. Whoever your heart goes to, you can worship. And you will attain the same supreme destination. Srila Prabhupada was extremely opposed to this conclusion. So whenever such idea came, he would put them down forcefully and call them rascals who believe in such a nonsense philosophy. So one time, one of the Dr. Patel's friends, Mr. Shah, he started screaming, "Why you always criticize? You always criticize so many different people." So devotees were ready to push him away, but Prabhupada said, "No, no, no, don't do anything." So for 3 or 4 minutes he kept criticizing and we kept walking. Finally Prabhupada said, "What can we do? We have to..." So he let him criticize. What can we do? We have to train our disciples against all kinds of deviant philosophies. Therefore, sometimes we have to criticize. Krishna also criticizes in the Bhagavad Gita, "Namam dushkritino mudha prapadyante naradava." Krishna also in this way criticizes people who do not surrender to him. Therefore, we also have to do that, Prabhupada would say. So then he kept quiet. This was such a reasonable explanation. It was about 5 minutes before we came to the temple, just at the corner of Gandhigram Road. So we all came back quietly. Prabhupada would not let any of us become upset with the man. Then as usual we came to the Vyasasana and Guru Puja was going on. Something wrong here. Guru Puja was going on. We were offering flowers, so this Mr. Shah also came to offer flowers. He offered flowers to Prabhupada's lotus feet. Then he put his head on Prabhupada's feet and started crying like a little baby. Oh my goodness. He was just crying incessantly. He knew he had committed a great offense. Srila Prabhupada was so kind, he just put his hand on his head and said, "It's okay, it's okay." So gradually cooled him down. Following Srila Prabhupada, the transcript. So this is the forgiveness, instant forgiveness that Srila Prabhupada manifested. And recently Harisauri Prabhu was in Madrid, and he was explaining how, I'm not sure if it's about himself or some other devotee, that one devotee they made a mistake and Prabhupada was upset, and then he tried to apologize, but it was not so sincere, and so Prabhupada wasn't exactly kind of accepting it. And then later this devotee apologized more, and then Prabhupada acknowledged that he accepts his apology. So spiritual master can feel this man was sincerely repentant. They sincerely regretted that he actually committed an offense by speaking very rudely to a spiritual master. May to July 1975, Srila Prabhupada's chastisement, Shuta Kirti. Prabhupada says, "You're a sannyasi, your business is to minimize bodily demands, minimize sleeping, minimize eating. Why are you sleeping? Paramahamsa Swami said, Prabhupada, I have a jet lag. You know what is jet lag?
When you go from one country to another, the different of time, so it affects your body.
Timbro, no? Timbro.
It doesn't have to do with the leg.
No. So like you feel...
It's a confusion about the time, because you become sleepy in the day because in your country is already sleepy time.
No, I don't understand.
It's called jet lag.
And I thought, Shutakirti says, and I thought, oh no. When Prabhupada said, jet lag? He said, well, we've just flew from here and done this. And Prabhupada said, so I'm also flying, I'm doing the same thing, I'm awake. Then he said, all right, go on, go sleep if you want. So we would go back to the room and of course we wouldn't sleep. Sometimes 5 minutes would go by or sometimes a half hour and he'd ring the bell again. And you'd go in and then he'd tell you to start reading and he'd tell you some stories or something and you would know that he wasn't angry with you. He was always trying to save us from our own bad habits and trying to show us that becoming Krishna conscious is serious business and one has to follow the process. Otherwise, gradually one can fall away. But that was one of the things he would do after chastising. He would always have a way of being extra special nice a little later on, and then we knew that he loved us so much. This is amazing.
There is a French saying, qui aime bien châtie bien. The one who loves a lot chastises a lot.
Yeah, but that's amazing. I didn't know this, that he would do this after chastisement.
We have time for questions.
Questions?
Yeah.
Well, we can do it now because it's 5 more minutes.
Probably this is with regard to morning's lecture. If you permit me, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
There was a topic of marriage you had raised in your
Let me just make a note of this page where we have stopped. It's page 26, so that we know for tomorrow. Okay, so 26. Sorry to interrupt you. I just have to do this. 26. Okay. So yes.
Yeah. So you raised one point that the man needs a wife who will say yes, like for everything what the husband says. So something similar.
Yeah, it was sarcastic.
Sarcastic.
Yeah.
And another thing is that another point you raised is that being the head of the family, he has to maintain his family. Okay, fine, he has to maintain his family, but that was, a very pure Vedic way. In that situation, that husband is the head of the family, is providing for the family, and it is a Vedic lifestyle. But in modern society, the Vedic lifestyle is not existing. And today, due to inflation and economic complications, the man and woman are working, even in India also, where little Vedic lifestyle is still there, but still the man and woman, they work.
Mm-hmm.
They are equal partners in marriage, in everything. Now, if the husband has wants his wife to be submissive, then of course he has to set a good example to his wife, and the wife can be submissive. But nowadays, the notion is that we are equal. If you are equal, if you are having the equality, then you be equal in providing both of them together to the family.
I think
equality is not only having the same right, but then you have to share the liabilities and responsibility also equally.
That's fair. If you read the book, the new book of Grihastha Life, Heart and Soul Connection, then you can see that actually what is encouraged is friendship and partnership, cooperation, And it's true, if you are equal in rights, you should be equal in responsibilities also.
Then you cannot say the husband should provide.
I don't know exactly what I said, but I was, first of all, the first...
Not you, means generally.
I don't understand what you...
But the men, I mean, what happens is that women maintain men. That's what I'm speaking against.
That is
You know, wife is working and husband is cooking and taking care of the kids. So that's not a very good situation. But I asked Mother Urmila, she knows some couples where it works. You know, he's a Brahmana, he's a Pujari, but he's doing these home things, and she was employed, and she's also good with money. so their marriage work. She's not angry, you know, she's not upset, and he sometimes makes money, but this is very rare. Usually, the wife who works is very frustrated.
Yeah, sometimes, okay, the husband doesn't want to work. He's a lazy chap, like he doesn't want to work. He's just relying on his wife only. That's the wrong thing. But in case if he doesn't get work, he's trying to find work and the wife is having no work. So he's trying his best to find a job.
Yeah, well, this excuse can go on for some time, but not forever.
Yeah, that's true. No, you definitely will find a job. It's not that.
If you want to work, you will find it.
Yeah, that's
Even you can clean something.
yes.
You don't have to get your diploma job.
But now in the Eastern European countries, the women are working and the men are just drinking all the time.
Oh, wow.
That situation is.
That's a rascaldom. Okay, so let us stop here. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
Tomorrow we will continue. These are amazing lessons in the